Igbo leaders and elders and academics across Nigeria and in the diaspora rose from a summit at the weekend with a call for enabling law compelling all political parties to insert rotation of presidency clause in their constitution. The call was contained in a communique issued by participants at the end of the 6th World Igbo Summit held in Gregory University, Uturu in Abia State, which was chaired by former Chief of Staff Commodore Ebitu Kiwe, retired. The statement was endorsed by Senator Ike Wachuku, Professor George Obiozo, Professor Greg Ibe, Mrs. Josephine Anene, and the Director General of the World Igbo Summit Group, Dr. Efedi Okenwa. It reads in part, and quote, "We call on Igbo legislators in the National Assembly to seek collaboration with members from other zones to amend the Electoral Act to accommodate a provision that compels INEC to ensure rotational clause in party's constitution as a requirement for registration," and end of quote. In the meantime, former Governor of Bauchi State, Isa Yuguda, says the Igbo presidency will strengthen Nigeria. According to the former governor, quote, "I strongly believe in justice and equity and oneness of our dear nation. As much as politics is a game of numbers, we must strive to build confidence among our regions." The story staring its face. They're saying we should just not do this gentleman agreement any longer. Let's put it as a clause in the political party's constitution. What's your take on this?
Well, it's good to see that the agitation for an Igbo presidency come 2023 is gaining momentum. But the question is, hasn't this been the case with every election cycle? I think everybody deserves a chance and a shot at the presidency. But a lot, I agree with them, depends on the on the political parties who present candidates for Nigerians to go and decide. But there's also the issue of trust, the issue of a united front. What exactly is the agitation of the elites and the leaders of thoughts in the region? What is the demand of the young people? Are they on the same page? I think that there's an erroneous view that, you know, there's no united front from the southeast region who deserves, and some people will say, you know, a long overdue presidency. So these are some of the issues they need to look at, and then sell that united front, that ticket to say it is long overdue, we deserve this, and we have a chance at this. You would also remember that no single region in Nigeria, thankfully, can produce the president alone. You know, so you need to go across the aisle, as they say. You know, you need to rub hands, you need to shake hands, you need to, you know, make sure that you have the other regions on the same platform, on the same boat with you. Can they do that? We are barely 2.5 years into 2023 presidential elections. So time will tell, but again, the South is bustling with optimism, and it's refreshing to see. What is the difference this time around is what is left to be seen.
Dr. Matthew?
Okay, I think the issue is as follows. One, the challenge of Igbo presidency is tied to the politics of Nigeria. Many Igbo persons, the majority of Igbo persons in Nigeria, believe that the civil war that ended in 1970, 67 to 1970, has not really ended, and that Igbo persons in Nigeria continue to be marginalized, continue to be punished, continue to be shortchanged because of that politics of the First Republic, whereby Igbos, it was assumed, rose against Nigeria, and then since then, the Igbos have not been forgiven. The Igbos have moved beyond that. Kwashoko, millions of Igbo children suffer from Kwashoko. Igbos were shortchanged, the 20 pounds solution and all of that. And up to today, the Igbos feel that they've not been properly reintegrated into Nigeria, despite General Gowon's statement that there was no victor or vanquished. Igbos feel vanquished. And so if you must have national unity in Nigeria, then the Igbos must be properly integrated into Nigeria. They believe that the war has not ended. And the proper indication of that war not ending is Igbos not having been given the opportunity to be president of Nigeria post the Civil War. The highest they've been able to get was through Ekweme, who became vice president, and who was a prominent person, and who created G34, who was even the founder of the process that led to the democratic process that many politicians enjoy today. So Igbos legitimately feel shortchanged. So which is why from this Igbo summit at the summit over the weekend was also talking about restructuring. So for the average Igbo man, restructuring is very important. So that's part of the issue. Now they are saying that rotation should be a party issue. I would have loved a situation whereby they are talking about rotation zoning as a constitutional issue. I didn't get that in the conversation. Maybe it was the newspapers that didn't report correctly. Because the Constitution is a ground norm. It's superior to the Electoral Act, is superior to party constitution. So what they should be legitimately asking for is that rotation zoning should be a constitutional provision. And I believe that there will be persons in other parts of Nigeria who will say that for the purposes of equity, justice, equality, and fairness, you know, that should be part of the Constitution. So that's the kind of message we need to get. But that's not what we're getting at this moment. And then they went further and said, for Igbos to win the presidency in 2023, they also need to reach out. And there was a call out to members of the National Assembly to liaise with other legislators from other parts of the country. So Igbo presidency in 2023 has been part of the conversation. It is good to see an Igbo summit that is talking about that issue, that is frontlining it, and that is making it part of the conversation ahead of 2023. But it's not about electoral act, it's not about, you know, the lawmaker, it's about a constitutional provision that says there should be a rotational principle as a way of restructuring Nigeria so that every citizen, in fact, it goes beyond Igbos, every citizen can have a sense of belonging and can believe that they can be president of Nigeria, they can be whoever they have the potential to become, irrespective of whatever historical baggage their region has.
Very clear insight there by Dr. Adesua and obviously Adeso Mora. Thank you guys so much for that. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Ruth Zadiri, Michael Wilson, Adeso Mora, Aaron Akirjala give us updates on Africa global business, COVID-19, spotting activities, and everything necessary. Just stay with us right here on The Morning Show. Welcome back to The Morning Show right here on the Rise News channel. It's that time to take a look at things around business, stories around business. Ruth Zadiri, you got us covered. Hi, Ruth, how are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Adesoa. Good morning, Doctor. Yeah, we begin with the aviation sector. I mean, we've seen what's going on with the European nations that have halted flights from the United Kingdom because of this new COVID strain. So the question now is, will Nigeria address UK flights? Of course, we knowing the amount of traffic between the UK and between Nigeria, the amount of Nigerians that live there, you know, and so on and so forth. What is it now? I think it's Germany is thinking about it. France has already halted freight activity between themselves and the UK, Belgium, Austria, the Netherlands. So, I mean, I know we don't know that much about this new strain, but what we do know is that it's spreading, you know, a lot faster. For all we know, the European nations, they could be overreacting, but they are just taking the necessary precautions. And if you remember how this started, right, when other countries were shutting down flights, we were a little late to the game. This is when the first wave came in. And so we haven't heard anything from the aviation sector, you know, the Minister, Hadi Shirika, Minister of State for Education. We haven't heard anything from aviation. Haven't heard anything from the Presidential Task Force. I'm hoping that we hear something today, but maybe they'll determine that it's not. They already have enough protocols in place. Of course, the Health Ministry already has protocols to where you're supposed to get tested before you board flights, but if other nations that already have a healthy amount of traffic between themselves and the UK are already halting flights, it is, I guess it should be notable that the Nigerian government should probably make an announcement. I think even the Israelis, the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, got a vaccine over the weekend. And Israel, I believe, is already either considering or already announced that non-Israelis coming into the UK, they're probably not going to allow that to happen. So that's something that should be thought about. Also, while on the subject of the aviation sector, there's still no bailout. The new stimulus package that was passed in the United States, the $900 billion second stimulus package that the Senate Republicans and Democrats, I believe, have agreed to, that includes, I believe, another $15 billion for their aviation sector. So the aviation sector is set to get a second stimulus over in the United States. Here in Nigeria, we still haven't heard anything with respect to a bailout for the aviation sector. And you can imagine if they were to now, halt flights further, that would possibly have a negative impact. So I mean, it's all up in the air as to whether or not any steps will be taken. But I mean, my position is that they should say something. Something I think should be said, or they should at least say that they are monitoring the situation. Along the same theme, to the organized private sector, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and so on, the organized private sector is warning against a second lockdown. We've seen what's been going on. Lagos State Governor came out, I think it was Thursday, Friday, with some new regulations halting carnivals, nightclubs. We, of course, heard about the nightclub in GRA that was shut down, viral video that went around showing that happened. The private sector is saying, look, regardless of what goes on, you should not shut down the economy a second time. They have an argument. I mean, we all know that this is what essentially, oil prices did fall precipitously, but this is essentially what put us in our second quarter contraction of 6.1%, where that late March through May period, activities were completely shut down, and that's what, we saw the effects of that. So should there now be a second lockdown? It's really, really hard. I mean, I almost feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I just talked about the aviation sector and how they should look at possibly banning flights. But it's because of the effects on the economy, perhaps it should be targeted, where you're looking at specific gatherings of large people, the nightclubs, the religious activities. I love fitness, maybe even the gyms as well. They should look at targeting those particular areas. Sadly, that's going to have an effect on hospitalities, yeah? And hospitalities has already suffered enough this year. They also don't have a bailout. There's no bailout for the hospitality sectors either. So, it's the organized private sector does have an argument, but then if things get worse, what was the latest amount of cases? I think it's 502, 520 or so. We are seeing the cases continue to rise. So what happens next? They have a case to be made, but if things get worse, we're going to have to look at possibly targeted lockdowns, for specific activities, kind of repeating what the Lagos State Governor has done. So it's pretty, it's pretty dicey right now, looking at how things are, especially going into the Christmas period, because Christmas is this week, and so you have to look at what that impact will be. Third, a PDP aspirant for the governorship of Delta State, former Minister of State for Education, Mr. Kenneth Gbagi, is saying that if he was to be elected governor in 2023, he would call for public schools to be run by private investors. He points to his period of time when he was Minister of State. I think about 13 universities were created. He says, under his tenure, if he was to be elected, I think he was making a presentation or so over the weekend or last week. Under his tenure, secondary schools, there would be 4 extra secondary schools at the local government level, and there would be boarding facilities. He believes that learning would be better facilitated if students went to boarding schools. But the key thing is that he says he will be able to attract private investment. It's a very interesting argument because, around the world, even in the West, public at the primary, secondary level, they are publicly funded by governments. It's at the university level that you see more private hands with endowment funds and more private institutions putting money in there. So if, assuming I thought it was an interesting argument that he put forward, if he was to become governor of Delta State, if you saw if private investors were to come in at the primary school, secondary school level, it will raise the cost of schooling, because if you're a private investor and you're going to pump money into a public school, be it at the primary or secondary level, you're probably going to overhaul the facilities, you're going to bring in highly qualified teachers, you're going to want a return on your investment. And so I'm not sure if that model is going to work. At the university level, yes, if you see what's been going on with ASU and what's been going on with the government, this is 9 months now that this strike has been going on between ASU and the federal ASU and the federal government back and forth. At the university level, they probably, you can make the argument for private hands, to run the universities. But at the public, look at the universal education, UBE, right, for Nigeria. It probably works better. Of course, government has to have better funding and fund these things better, but it works better at the primary and secondary level for those levels to be publicly funded. But then, who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens in 2033. It'll be an interesting experiment, but I think it will drive up the cost of schooling in Delta State. And that's our update.
Yes, Kenneth Baggy can wait. That's an issue we can deal with later. Brilliant ideas. But look, the major issue is what is happening in the United Kingdom at the moment. And you put your finger on it correctly by saying that it's of interest to us in Nigeria. When you say, for example, there is a mutant variant of the COVID-19 in the United Kingdom, and we've been told that is 70% effective in terms of transmissibility.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the phrase that they have used in the last 48 hours. And Hancock, the health secretary, has also pointed out that, look, that is a reality, that we face a serious problem. And it's not only across Europe that we've been told that travels in and out from the United Kingdom has been banned. Even Canada has banned, travels from the United Kingdom. But what we've been told, which is perhaps a bit reassuring, which perhaps gives the indication that this is a case of caution, is that we're told that in terms of the effect, in terms of the negative implications, that this is not the case. So that perhaps is reassuring. But as a country, you wanted Nigeria to respond to this, considering the fact that at this time, many Nigerians are going to the United Kingdom. Students are going to resume. They are being followed by their mothers, who are the ones who are usually more faithful in these circumstances. The fathers stay back. The mothers are the ones who jump onto the plane. I want my son, I want my daughter to settle down. And there is January admission from January 6, 11, facing us. So yes, you are right, but will Nigeria take the decision to ban travel in and out of the United Kingdom? I think that would be a bit difficult. But what all of this is telling us is that this thing called COVID-19 is a very serious problem. The British, they have labeled it COVID 2020-12-01, which means that, look, we're dealing with something that has even now gone beyond 2019. It is now going to 2011, it's going beyond 2020. So that's a very serious challenge for us. But the bigger problem is, what are we doing in Nigeria? In Ghana, neighboring Ghana, President Akufo-Addo is already talking about what Ghana wants to do. And they seem to be moving ahead of Nigeria. Nigeria has a technical working group. We don't know who and who is a member of that technical working group. We have been told Nigeria will spend 584 billion naira. Okay, Nigeria is always very quick to quote figures when it comes to money. We want to know the details. What is Nigeria doing to protect Nigerians? Okay? Beyond saying, oh, don't go to UK. How do we get the vaccine? How do we respond in a more responsible manner like Ghana? These are the issues in my view. You know, but it's important that you brought up the issue, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. I just quickly want to sound off on this about the lockdown, possibility of lockdown. I'm happy the Lagos State Governor said there is no chance because it's going to really destroy the economy. It has destroyed the economy. The lockdown we had in the past, a lot of people are still reeling from it, especially people in the service sector. And I keep asking the question, where's the role of data? Has data played any role in all of this? We itemized local governments that COVID-19 was very rampant. What did we do in those local governments? Did we increase awareness? We are still saying we want to do a zero prevalence data analysis. We have not gotten the result till date about even how prevalent this is. Secondly, our borders, our airspace coming into the country has shown a great level of porosity. Why? Because there are very strong allegations about people paying inducement and getting false COVID results. We have not tackled that system. When you look at it, every single part, the economy has taken a beating. We have not used data. We've not been able to harmonize what we had. Look at the COVID-19 palliatives. It was a clear case of more than omni shambles. A lot of people couldn't get those palliatives. A lot of people are reeling from the pain of that. What data do we have on ground to be able to power this? In the vaccine race today, we are depending on COVAX, I say 2024. We've not heard any offshoot of the meeting with the Vice President and Pfizer. Nothing is being done as regards that. Recently, the NAFDAC MD came out to say, oh, we got some vaccine candidates. What have we done as regards that?
Yeah, but the big problem that we face is this challenge between business and survival. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Organized private sector all over the world, they say, oh, business. We need to protect business. We need to protect the economy. And here in Nigeria, we face the same challenge. What we should say to the organized private sector is that lives are more important than business. How government strikes the business, this balance is not our own responsibility as talking heads on television or the ordinary people out there. It is for government to find that right balance and to ensure that lives become more important than the profit orientation and ambitions of persons who think that they can profit from COVID-19. COVID-19 should not become a profit target for individuals or organizations. It should be for even those organizations and individuals an opportunity to protect lives.
Most importantly, all right. Thank you so much, Rotus. We'll move on quickly to Michael Wilson, our Joseph from London. Michael, how are you doing?
Good morning, fine, thanks. Defensive tone, obviously, this morning for everything you've been talking about. Asian equity markets defensive, even though that US fiscal stimulus package has been reached and that COVID-19 mutation in the UK, as you've just observed, to split the markets. Japan, South Korea and Australia also trying to cope with spiraling cases. China, naturally, the markets there have bucked the trend, despite the US increasing the number of China blacklisted companies over the weekend and the central bank leaving interest rates unchanged. The US stimulus package, the rollout of vaccinations in China, and also this talk that will pass and financially, remember that he's passed that on the Chinese government to smooth relations. That seems to have trumped COVID-19 fears a bit. But in China, mainland markets higher. The Shanghai Composite has risen by just about 0.5%. And as I said, China left its interest rates unchanged. The next move is probably going to be up there. Elsewhere in Asia Pacific, the picture is somewhat glummer. COVID-19 fears promoting investors to trim vaccine-driven long equity position, if I can put it in a market way. In other words, people are pessimistic about the future. Most of the markets there down. Global recap. So as I said then, that $900 billion stimulus package has passed, much less, if you remember, than what they were originally talking about, but that should therefore pass through, and it's in addition to the $1.4 trillion funding bill for the US government. So it's been months of wrangling. Most COVID relief programs were set to expire at the end of the month. About 12 million Americans under at risk of losing access to unemployment benefits. They'll vote on the package today, and then it will be signed into law by the outgoing President Donald Trump. Unfortunately, that sort of positive news, and it's a bit not that positive, but it's better than nothing, is being overshadowed by the COVID-19 headlines you've just been talking about. A more contagious version of it, again, as you mentioned, in the UK has spooked the markets. We are now struggling under record daily totals. A new strain, as you said, prompted European countries to close borders with Britain, and South East England happens to be under another tier of regulations. So the UK Health Secretary have said actually before the weekend that it was actually out of control, sterling therefore under pressure. The new strain doesn't appear that more virulent. You were talking about data again. Scientists, epidemiologists on Saturday here were talking about they'll need time to actually look at it. And again, is there light at the tunnel? We've got to talk about distribution, and that's very, very difficult indeed. As far as the UK and in the EU is concerned, travel and freight, at least 10 European countries have banned travel from the UK about concern of COVID-19. France has also called a 48-hour halt to passengers and freight crossing the Channel, most notably between Dover and Calais. Prime Minister will be chairing an emergency meeting to try to work out what's going on. And the two leaders, of course, in the UK and France, not talking to each other right now, but there are obviously the trade deal fraught discussions continuing over that. Oil down on these new COVID-19 fears. The only thing that's benefited from all this is gold and silver. Haven buying, really. See, that's what that's been all about. And quite impressive rallies for gold and silver. Gold at least pushing up to its sort of resistance level of $1,900 an ounce. And silver leapt over 3%. It's now $26.65 an ounce. Weekend ahead, mainly it's the US numbers. Final GDP for Q3, jobless claims, they'll be up again, no doubt. And any fallout may be mollified by the passing of that stimulus package, but I wouldn't hold your breath. It looks like a very, very glum week as we head into Christmas. That's the global view.
I have a long list of questions for you, but I'm not too sure I can take all the questions. But let's start with the U.S. stimulus package. How significant is this development? $900 billion package, which would, we are told, run into trillions, over $2 trillion. Is this the end of the congressional relief, and how significant is this? And what are your thoughts on this stimulus package? Secondly, the United States has now blacklisted about 59 Chinese companies, and China is saying that it will retaliate and all of that. What are your thoughts on that? Because China is saying this is unilateral conduct that is usual with the Trump administration. And it looks like the Trump administration, in its last moments, is trying to get back at China. And then, of course, this new Tier 4 lockdown. How does it affect you personally? How are you responding to it? What do you think about it?
Okay, stimulus package, first of all. I don't know whether it's the end of it, but it's very much smaller than people had actually expected. The effect of it will, I think last week I worked out it would put between $600 and $500 in the pocket of each of the United States citizens. I don't think that's going to be enough, personally. I think also it's interesting that they passed a $1.4 trillion package to help government. Obviously, a lot of that's going to be about distribution of vaccine. At least I hope it is. It's not exactly clear about that. As Rotis was saying, a bit of it's gone to the aviation industry as well. But it's going to be a long time before those injections, those vaccines, actually get into the arms of ordinary people. China always acts unilaterally. I know what it's saying about the United States. It is a shame that President Trump is going out with that kind of gesture. We don't know yet what Joe Biden's attitude towards China is going to be. We do know that his new trade representative, Mrs. May well be slightly more accommodative, if I can put it like that, to discussions rather than ramping up things and then throwing a load of regulations at various companies. We do need each other, but it has to be said that since long before the election, when we first started talking in the middle part of this year, both US companies have been onshoring their semiconductor activities and China has been doing the same. I think there's a long, long way to go. I think 2021 is going to be quite a defining moment as far as China's future in the world is concerned. Not that it won't win eventually. Yes, I think it will. I think the balance of power is heading towards the East simply because of its size. But there's a long way to go with these kind of discussions. And China, if it wants a place at the top table in terms of world discussions, has to recognize that. As far as Tier 4's concerned, it's going to be a fairly glum Christmas. We are worried about the fact, I mean, even these fears come up all the time, don't they? I think a lot of it's handy newspaper headlines, to be honest. There's a fear about food shortages and so on. I can't really see that happening. But it's more constriction. It means a lot of families, whom I know particularly, you asked me about my personal thing, my grandchildren live abroad, so it's not an issue for me, but many people have got Christmas presents, lined up for their kids at home. We've got a couple in the village here. We're looking after an old lady whose husband has just died over Christmas. We haven't quite worked out when she's going to go home, where the Christmas presents are going to go, when the kids are going to come down, all this kind of stuff. So there's a great deal of disruption going on. I think also, if I may say so, there's going to be a big spike of this new strain, whatever it is, after Christmas, because people will have a few drinks and then they'll get together and just to cancel it for one day as it is now, to cancel getting together for one day, but to be careful, it's going to fall on very deaf ears over Christmas. People are actually fed up of being locked down, and I think that goes, as well.
Right, real quick with Michael. With all of this stimulus package, there are indications for this. This is the indication, Michael. Now, America budget ceiling is been raised to about over 17 trillion. Apart from that, there's going to be a lot of QE coming in. I'm not sure Japan is trying to give America some money because, America owes Japan a lot of debt. And the budget deficit is about 17 trillion. The economy is about 20 trillion. The debt keeps rising, quantitative easing. What will be the after effect? And when you see QE, you see inflation.
Yeah, so we've talked about inflation before. I don't necessarily think that's a problem. That's not just my view. That's a sort of consensus of economists' view. Until we get actual consumption, then I don't think we're going to get inflation, but I could be wrong. But any kind of inflation is going to be bad. We do not want to see a rise in interest rates in the near future because the indebtedness you've just been talking about. As far as debt's concerned, the magic money tree seems to be taking care of that, doesn't it? It's not real, but then again, inter-country debt isn't real. It depends on one's trust in central banks, which at the moment, if you trust the Fed, if you trust the Central Bank of Japan, if you trust the People's Bank of China, which I think people tend to do, then I think it will be roughly okay, but it'll be very, very tough. We're in uncharted waters once again. And this, the bottom line about this is, if this vaccination actually works, then let's get it out. Get it out as quickly as possible. You'll hear more and more stories as 2021 starts about anti-vaxxers and people not wanting to take it. I think we may end up carrying little cards saying, do you know what? I've had the vaccination. I hope we do, because I'd be happy to carry something like that if it meant me coming maybe to see you in Nigeria. Who knows?
Well, Michael, there are other issues to talk about. The big tech appears to be under fire. From the US to Australia to everywhere else. But maybe we don't have enough time to talk about that this morning. Maybe tomorrow morning, maybe we'll talk about that. Big tech under fire and the implications for those tech giants.
Right. Thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate you for your time this morning. We'll quickly move over to Adesso Mara. Adesso, everything vaccines, everything COVID.
Thank you very much. And with him, the gentlemen who came before me have made my job easier this morning, talking about the new variant of the virus in the UK. But before then, as it is the custom, let's look at the numbers and where they're rising and where they are falling. So yesterday, 530,008 80 cases were recorded globally, according to the Johns Hopkins University tally. Now, in the last 14 days, we've seen a 4% increase in the coronavirus cases globally. If we can have the Johns Hopkins University numbers, we are now currently at about 76.8 million cases globally. As at the last time I checked, that was the number. In some places, actually in most places, we are seeing a rise in the numbers. It is unclear if this has anything to do with this new variant we're talking about, or they are just super spreader event. Yes, that's it. 76.8 million cases, 1.6 million deaths, and of course, 191 countries and regions. I continue to say that Antarctica is the only continent without a case of the COVID-19. And going back to the news grabbing all the headlines globally as regards COVID this morning is the new variant in the UK. Like I said, Roaches and Michael made my job easy. They've talked about the countries, and the list is growing. It's European and non-European countries. We are seeing Kuwait, Iran, Austria, Ireland, Bulgaria, and France. France took it a notch higher by adding accompanied freights to the travel ban. Now, we are learning a lot about the coronavirus, but it's also learning about us. So it's developing extra ways to fighting us. This variant has already mutated 23 times with major changes to the spike protein. Now, the spike protein is that part that helps it infect the human cells. It's also the part that vaccines have been designed to target. Although it is early days, but no data is suggesting that this variant is more severe. However, the key question is, will vaccines still work against this virus? And it's not just the UK that is receiving travel ban restrictions over this new strain. Israel is banning entry to non-citizens arriving from the UK, Denmark, and South Africa. And so is Turkey. Turkey is also temporarily suspending flights from Britain, Netherlands, Denmark, as well as South Africa. In case you're wondering why South Africa is on that list, that's because a similar strain to this one has been identified in other countries, including South Africa, as late as August. But they were not this infectious, and they didn't spread that much. But countries are just being taking extra precaution here. The WHO tweeted yesterday it has called for enhanced surveillance worldwide in light of this recent development. That's the tweet right there. It says it's in touch with the UK officials. And you guys have talked about what Nigeria is doing. Reuters mentioned the Minister of Aviation. Well, the Nigerian health authorities are not unaware. There was also a tweet from the NCDC boss, Dr. Ihekwazu. He said Nigeria is also studying and is awaiting additional guidance from the WHO. This strain was initially found in a patient in September, but was only confirmed December 13th. We are wondering why. Scientists in UK said that they didn't think that this was anything serious because we have seen 4,000 strains of the COVID-19 since it emerged. So they only got concerned when they saw the spike in number despite the lockdowns across the UK. And then those numbers you're seeing, yes, on Sunday, number recorded daily infections in the UK reached an all-time high, 35,920 new cases. Of course, this forced a stringent new lockdown, Tier 4, to come into force in London, parts of the East and Southeast England, as well as Wales. This will affect 21 million people who are told to stay at home, cancel Christmas plans, while non-essential shops and businesses have to close. The health secretary, like Dr. Bat said earlier, Matt Hancock, has said that the lockdown could last for months. Let's quickly go to the U.S. now, where the Moderna shots are expected to be given to Americans starting this morning, just 3 days after the FDA authorized their emergency rollout. Now, those above 75 years old and essential workers, frontline workers to include teachers, food and agriculture, manufacturing, U.S. Postal Service, public transit, grocery store workers, they make up about 13 million of these frontline workers. They are now to be prioritized in the next phase of vaccination program in the U.S. Against those 75 years and above will be prioritized. So this is good news for America. It remains the most impacted country with COVID-19 cases as well as deaths. So, and there are also plans to actually give authorization to a third vaccine company. We are yet to find out the name of that third vaccine, but the U.S. seems to be on top of its game.
Well, Adesua, very interesting subjects that you have brought up. But with regard to the situation in the United Kingdom, which I think is something that would be of interest to many Nigerian parents, it is important to note that whereas the United Kingdom now has this new strain, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, has driven up the level of anxiety by saying that this new strain is a very serious problem, particularly in the southeastern part of England, which has now resulted in Prime Minister Boris Johnson cancelling Christmas. He didn't want to cancel Christmas before, but now he has had to cancel Christmas. And Kestema, the Labour leader, has had to come forward to say, well, this had been very obvious since September. Why has it taken the authorities, the government of the day, now to take that decision? So what we have is a situation of anxiety in the United Kingdom, which has in fact spread all over the world. I mentioned earlier that Canada has also had to restrict movements into Canada from the United Kingdom. Other countries, Germany, France, Italy, Bulgaria, the Netherlands. The only exception is Spain. Spain says, okay, we will conduct PCR tests on arrival. And when Rotus came earlier, he was raising the question about, okay, should Nigeria also look at, restrictions in terms of movement from the United Kingdom? I don't know whether Nigeria can afford to do that. But what we have seen from the United Kingdom is that this virus continues to mutate. And it poses a very serious threat to humanity. But the English, the British, they are saying that in terms of the effectiveness of the vaccines, they have not seen any threat. In terms of any serious danger, they have not seen it. But what they have seen is that they need to be cautious. So this is going to be a Grinch Christmas in the United Kingdom. But I think it's good that, they are taking very serious precautions. But also here in Nigeria, I think we should talk about Nigeria. The governor of Lagos State talked about restrictions. The governor of Ebonyi talked about restrictions. The governor of Kaduna, Katsina, and Samvara, Adamawa, they talked about restrictions. Because we made a point on this program that, okay, if the federal government is just going to announce the fact that there is a second wave in Nigeria, the state governments should move and take a decision. We have seen state governments that have taken the decision. And here in Lagos State, I think it is shocking, it is embarrassing, that even on the day that the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who has been declared governor of the year by two newspapers, The Nation and Leadership newspaper, the very day that he declared that people need to be cautious, and he thanked people for supporting him for being coronavirus positive. Do you know that people went ahead and they were holding parties? Yes. People were tone deaf. They were completely deaf. Yes. And yesterday, the Lagos State government had to shut down a nightclub. Yes. Even after the governor had said, look, no nightclub should operate. Cubana in Ikeja GRA. Yeah. I know where it is.
Okay, it's GRA.
Yeah.
I thought it was Victoria Island.
No, there is Cubana in Ikeja GRA. I went through there. The Lagos State government has put seal. So Nigerians need to help themselves. Boss Mustafa, the chairperson of the campaign against COVID-19, the task force, the presidential task force, has been saying, look, take responsibility. But I see that Nigerians are absolutely suicidal, which is very unfortunate. The only other development, which you did not bring up, maybe I missed that, is that the United States Food and Drug Administration has approved Moderna.
Yes, I did bring it up.
Their vaccine.
Yes.
And that vaccine will be rolled out from today. And that vaccine is very close to the Pfizer vaccine, but the only difference is that it requires lower registration. And then they have FedEx, UPS, and Makone, you know, supporting with the transportation. And so we expect that by this week, there will be a distribution of over 7 million doses. So countries are taking a decision. Ghana next door is taking a decision and is performing. Where is Nigeria?
I mean, those are the big questions we keep asking every time. Where's Nigeria? And I'm really excited about the fact that we've started to take this very seriously. So in Abuja, the task force, we all know the Abuja task force for COVID-19, they've swung into action again. Things will be done properly. I was very sad what I saw in Lagos yesterday. I tried driving through Water Resources Road in Victoria. They had this big party and the place was shut down.
There are parties everywhere.
And it's quite very sad. But a good question raised about blocking the UK from UK people from coming into Nigeria at the airport. The question I'd like to ask is, we had the report that some people are fraudulently giving people fake COVID-19 reports. Did we hear the Presidential Task Force investigate it and bring people to book? No.
They did mention.
They mentioned they are investigating. So we keep looking at investigations till the end of the year, maybe till next year. We keep investigating, and people are coming into the country every day. A lot of people are coming in from the UK every day, and this is continuous. I will not be surprised if we start to see the strain. I'm not surprised it mutated in the first place. If you remember, way back, August, September, Professor Tomori talked about this. We all saw it coming. What has been done? We had a doctor here speak about the fact that we have likely vaccine candidates. What has been done to be able to accelerate the process? What has been done as regards? So these are the salient questions we keep asking. Now they are saying they want to have another supplementary budget for COVID-19. Hope the money will not be fretted away. Hope it will not be stolen due to corruption. They're going to sit with the National Assembly very soon as regards that. Hope that money will not be stolen. Because if I hear they want to start buying palliatives, my ear was straighten up real quickly. Because the palliative they bought the last time, nothing has been done. NDDC spent 6.2 billion to buy rotten food for people. These are the things we are seeing in the country, and that's why we are not ready yet.